we are going to make some venison and wild mushroom stuffed squashes.
Okay.
What do you think?
They look delicious.
Well, let's hope so. Could you just sort of sprinkle a little bit of olive oil on them? I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about venison, I think. I'm going to cook this venison with some cream and some brandy. It's quite an old-fashioned sort of recipe. It's quite, you know, hearty, very autumnal, wintry, sort of pulling in the nights and getting around the fire. I mean, I suppose if I was on Instagram, I'd probably have baked these slowly at the edge of my wood-burning stove or something in the sitting room. Right. As it is, we're going to use the kitchen because it's just a bit more comfortable and practical. And venison, obviously, is something that we at the Country Food Trust have just decided is the go-to product of the moment for us, isn't it?
It is indeed. Because we've been doing pheasant, haven't we, up to now?
A lot of pheasant, yes.
And now what we're doing is we're moving towards venison because, well, for two reasons. First of all, because we can feed children with it.
Yes.
And secondly, because there's quite a lot of supply of venison around at the moment.
So why can't children eat pheasant?
Good point, thank you for asking. The reason they can't at the moment is that however much...
They will cook quicker in the oven, yeah.
The reason that we don't supply our pheasant-based products to children is that however hard we try and however much we try and extract the lead, there is still a chance of lead being in that food.
So I've got some wild mushrooms, I've got a little selection here, some winter chanterelles very much coming to the end, a few little chestnut mushrooms, some king oyster mushrooms, just any old mushroom from the supermarket will do. Doesn't need to be anything particularly fancy, but just the more flavour we can get in there, the better it will be. Got some butter, some olive oil. I'm going to add quite a lot of onion, a couple of cloves of chopped garlic. I'm just going to start sweating that down and getting it going on the old stove there. Once it gets going, we'll add the venison. In the meantime, I'm just going to start getting some of these mushrooms chopped up, some of the larger ones anyway. So I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh sage in there. You could use dried sage if you had it. Just some hard herbs really. You might go rosemary or savoury, a little bit of thyme. You know, this really is a beauty because even actually if you didn't want to do it inside the squashes, maybe you've got some kind of squash related phobia, you could just literally make this and, you know, serve it up with some rice or some noodles or something. So once that's sort of starting to really get a bit of flavour going, I'm going to put a little bit of salt, a bit of pepper. Obviously, you know, you've got to have salt and pepper. Watch out for salt, don't put too much salt in there, terribly bad for you, terribly bad for you. Although of course you can't live without it. So it's a bit of a mixed message on salt really, but anyway.
Venison is quite lean meat, right?
Very lean, but don't worry because we're going to cover it in cream. You don't have to eat this recipe, do you? I mean, it's just one idea of many. So chucking in some wild mushrooms, get those sweating down in there as well. Some winter chanterelles here. There's also some that we've carefully foraged from aisle 1 of the nearest supermarket, which is some nice king oyster mushrooms and some close cut little button mushrooms there. Very nice, delicious. Mushrooms and venison obviously go together very, very well. So this is kind of like almost sort of heading off into a stroganoff-y type territory, but you know, not quite. And once you just let that sort of come down a little bit, we're going to add a little bit of flour, a little dash of brandy, some milk, some cream. Just, it doesn't take very long to cook, right? It's going to go back in the oven once it's been done anyway, so we don't need to worry too much about it baking forever. So a little dash of flour just to help hold everything together. We don't want it to be too watery. There's probably a sort of specific recipe, but we're going reasonably freestyle on it today. It's quite a sweet one to look at. So you can see, you know, it hasn't taken very long. I mean, chefs are terrible for saying that, aren't they? It hasn't taken very long to throw this together. But it's all right if you happen to have the ingredients handy and you've chopped them up quickly and whatever. Even, I think, including shopping time, if you had the venison mince, you could put this together in 2 hours, you know, unless you live a very long way from the supermarket. A little bit of this, I know, it looks really good, doesn't it? Can we make sure the rest of that ends up in my cup? Just let that sort of cook out. And the mistake that people make when they add alcohol, wine or brandy or anything like that to food is they then just start chucking in the next lot of ingredients, and you really need to let that cook down a bit. I'm going to add, you know, some milk, roughly, I don't know, what, 100 ml, something like that, a couple of hundred. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cream as well. You'll notice I've tried to keep the fat content down a bit by using milk and cream rather than just cream. And then once it's come up, we're going to put a little bit of mustard in there too. And you see all those lovely flavours that have reduced down on the bottom of the pan. As soon as the milk hits that, the flavours all release from the bottom of the pan, and we start to really sort of head towards something quite exciting. A little bit of cream too. You know, you could leave out the cream. It's very easy to leave out the milk as well and the butter. You could do this with a little bit of olive oil, add the flour, use a bit of stock. You know, it'd be very easy to sort of make this a lot lower on the calorie count if you wanted to. That's not everyone's obsession, is it? It's just some people's obsession. Some people still quite like a bit of cream. Hang on. I just want to put a little bit of French mustard in there as well. And stir that in, and then I'm gonna just taste it, see if it's all right.
Would you like a teaspoon? Can I provide that for you? I need a roll.
You need a roll? Bread roll? Drum roll?
Spoon provided roll.
Yeah, spoon would be good. Thank you very much. Oh, that's the effort you make to help me out. It's just astonishing.
I do my best.
This is easy, right? Now, I'm not making that up. This is one of the most sort of uncomplicated, high-impact recipes you could ever imagine. It actually tastes quite nice as well, so that's a relief.
Am I allowed to speak?
Of course you are. Just don't double dip, whatever you do.
I wouldn't.
These are dangerous times we're living in.
Oh, that is good.
All right, and now I'm just gonna take it off the heat. I'm just gonna leave it until our squashes are ready. Can you get the pumpkins, the little squashes out of the oven for me? That would be helpful if you could do that. They should be nice and done now. I think your purpose in life is to feed people in need, Tim, and you're doing very well at it. How many have we fed so far?
So, as you know, we're trying to feed 1 million people in the first 5 years of the charity's existence. And this year we went whizzing through it. We're now 1.6 million. In fact, having started with 20,000 a year, right at the beginning, in the early days, 20,000 meals, this year we actually produced 1 million in 1 year.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Going to be more as well, it's 1 million. And the trustees of the charity have said, right, we've gone through the 1 million mark. Can we
have a holiday?
No, they haven't.
They haven't said that.
No. As you well know, they've said, could we now go to 1 million a year? So
yes,
I have every confidence we'll do that.
Yeah, we're going to smash that, aren't we? That's not a problem at all. With continued support from generous people, that's not going to be a difficult thing to do. Sorry, just to drag it back to the dish a minute. The venison is pretty much ready, and now all I'm going to do now, and it's quite tricky this bit because you need chefy fingers, or you could just sort of, or just burn yourself. Yeah. Once I've just carefully cut the tops off these little squishes.
Yep.
Squashes, and then I'm gonna, yeah. And then I'm gonna gut these. It's a bit like a woodcock pumpkin. You know, you have to cook it whole, and then gut it afterwards. Do you want to take a bit longer though? Because
yeah, don't worry. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Oh, thank God. I thought you'd gone to turn it on your potter's wheel.
Nope.
You can save these seeds out of here. You know, you could do something with them, toast them up and put them in your next pesto or something like that, I suppose, if you wanted to. Just make sure you get most of them out. I mean, you don't need to be too pedantic. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, it's just a pumpkin seed. It's not going to hurt if you eat it. Oh, unless you've got, you know, a bad tooth or something. So just going to season them again, right? Because we do not want this to be bland. And although we season the outside of the squashes and those skins will be perfectly edible and delicious because we washed them before we started, we also don't want them to be, you know, sort of a bit rubbish. So extra seasoning in there. And then we're just going to get some hazelnuts, which I'm going to just start by just sort of bashing a little bit, and a few of them fly off across the kitchen. If that happens, don't worry, it's a perfectly normal part of life. Give them a little rough chop. I mean, and I want some big bits and some small bits. I want a mixture of textures, as we say. You know, you could go a bit wild if you wanted to with this. They might not be hazelnuts, they might be, I don't know, walnuts, chestnuts. Oh, chestnuts would be good at Christmas, wouldn't they? You could put a few chestnuts on the top. Anyway, I've gone massively off piece. Actually, as the wild mushrooms come to a finish through the winter, sort of go half and half, do half mushrooms and half chestnuts. That'd be quite nice, make it a little bit more festive if it was getting towards that time of year. I've got this lovely, lovely, delicious, creamy, pheasanty, venison-y, pheasanty venison. Got this lovely venison mixture here, and I've got way more than's going to fit in my little squashes. Whatever you cook these on, serve them on it, because if you try and move them, what happens is the bottom falls out, which is quite funny, but it's not the most attractive thing in the world. So just stuff that in there like that, you know, hence the name, stuffed. And then I've got my lovely fresh breadcrumbs, so these are not too dry. If you wanted to add a bit of cheese, you could. I think I'll just put a little drizzle of olive oil in here, A little drizzle of olive oil on those so that they toast and don't burn. Some hazelnuts, just have those. And I think I might just go completely bananas. Put some more sage and some more thyme in with them as well, just to pimp them up a little bit. Maybe some parsley. What do you think? Parsley?
Yes.
Got a bit of that kicking around. Well, you know, as you know, you are my culinary consultant. I would never dream of making anything without consulting you. See how quickly I got that bowl? I'll just mix that together, it's making a little, and you know, if there's some of this left over, just pop in a little tub, stick it in the fridge or the freezer, and use it the next time you want some sort of crispy herby thing put on the top of something. Remember, it's got nuts in it, so we'll just literally just stuff a load of this on the top. And I'm being quite vigorous because I want to make sure that any sort of gaps inside the squashes have been really filled up by that. Well, no, well, not unless we get a sort of rupturing scenario going on. And then if you wanted to, you could sort of be a bit poncy about it and stick those on the top. And I'll just rinse my hands while you fling them back in the oven for a quick roast. Oh yes, it's your chance to shine, Tim. Oh, look, the door's got you, that's good. And they just want 10 minutes in there, nice and hot, to do their thing. Yes, it's as easy as that. Oh, they're nicely toasted up, look, and they're all bubbly and hot, steamy inside. And they just look like, you know, really good fun, and they smell amazing. Brilliant.
For more about the work of the Country Food Trust, go to thecountryfoodtrust.org, and you will find a link to the recipe in the description below.